All right, so I know things were a little bit confusing in class the other day because, technology. So I'm going to try and give a video of what we did so you know what to do for the upcoming Monday's assignment. So I'm currently logged into Mitchell's account, which is just like we saw the other day in class. And I'm at this / which is Mitchell's root folder. And so to remind you what that means is if we're in otcwebdev.net, there was a folder in my directory that I showed you in class, FA24S, and if I type Mitchell or you type your own name right there, then there's Mitchell's files. And so those files are the same files that you have here in your root folder, which I put for you earlier during the semester. So what I would like you to do is start to create sort of a portfolio of your projects. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come up here to these double dots, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say create a directory. And I'm going to create this directory to store those files for the professional website that we did earlier. So I'll make a folder called professional. And of course there's nothing in it right now, so making folders simply means that if I was to go into this browser, that's a folder, so I would add the word professional here. And whatever was the default in that folder is going to show up. And the default is always index, but there is no index in that folder, so we're getting a 404. So what we're going to do then is we're going to take these files that exist that we saw a moment ago, and I'm just going to click on the top one, and I'm going to shift and click on the last listing of these files so I can select them all at once. And I'm just going to click and drag them into the professional folder. So all I'm doing is moving those professional files that we had in his root folder into the professional folder. And now because there is an index in that page, in that folder, index is always the default. We can come in here and we'll just write professional. Now when I hit refresh, there's his web page. So just to kind of rehash that point, if I click on contact, contact is contact.html. So the index means that if I don't know a file name and I don't put a file name that exists inside the folder, the default is to show the index.html. If I happen to know a file name and I wasn't provided a click, then I could simply type in that file name, contact.html, and that page comes up. But as users of a website, we usually don't know the web page name, but this, remember, is the folder. That's the file name. If we don't provide a file, then the server is going to give us some kind of default, and the default is the index.html. All right, so now I've successfully moved the professional into that folder. If I now delete this folder in my URL, remember I moved the files, so there shouldn't be anything in here. Sometimes the browser caches what used to be there, and that can be a problem because if I look in here, there isn't anything in this folder, so that should be a problem. It should not be displaying anything, but my browser is trying to help me and said, well, there used to be something there. So if I hit shift, let's see, there we go. I hit shift, command, and delete. Shift, command, and delete. And what I'm going to do is erase the cookies or the data, the cached files. This is the problem. The cached files. My browser's trying to help me, but it's really not helping me. So I'm going to click on clear the cached files and then in the last hour so I don't have to delete things I've done in my past. And then now if I hit this, I'm going to get a 404 because it cleared out its cache. So sometimes that can be kind of confusing. I didn't write this stuff, you guys. I'm just teaching it. All right. So now we don't have anything here in this space. So what I want you guys to do, and what I did in class, was to create a landing page that is going to eventually look nice, but for the moment it doesn't look very nice because I'm just kind of getting it started. So I did this in class the other day, so this should be a refresher. So I made an anchor tag, and the anchor tag is saying that all it's doing is it's saying there should be in the folder that I exist. I'm the index.html. And I'm going to exist in this root folder. So relative to where I am, in other words, don't look at a folder behind me or in someone else's folder. In the folder that I exist in, look for a professional folder. That's what this is saying. And since there is an index in there, I don't have to also add index. Oops, where did that help me? It didn't help me at all. So stop helping me. Hate these drop downs sometimes. Sometimes they're helpful and sometimes they're just not. So in other words, there it is. Let's see if I can type this out without seeing it. Okay, there we go. There we go. So still didn't type it right. Okay, I blame technology. So look in this folder for an index.html. Remember, I can put it on there or leave it off because that's the default. So look in that folder for the index. And I also added target blank so it would open it up in a new web page. Then I also had this quitting time JPEG, and we did this in class. It's just an image, and I tried to re-emphasize that you want to make sure that you pay attention to the casing, that whatever casing is here matches the actual file casing, so that way it works when you upload it. Because in a Windows machine, it doesn't have to match, but on the live server, it does have to match. So at this point, this is my computer's files over here. This is the remote files, the files that exist on the server. Here's the file that I just edited. So if I click on these and drag them over into the root folder. So again, this notation says relative to me, relative to, now I'm really getting myself messed up, stop clicking. Relative to me, the index, I'm the index and I live right here. If you look where I exist, look deeper, nested inside of where I live, a folder inside the folder I'm in, there is a professional folder, and that's this link. And open it up in a new tab. So now we'll open up this page again. Now when I hit refresh, there should be an index page there, and there is. That's adorable. And when I click on this, then it's going to go into that professional folder and pull up the index in a new tab. So you notice it's in a new tab, right? Because we did the target blank. So professional website, look in that folder, and then look for its index HTML. Remember, this is a different index HTML. This is a different index HTML than this one because they exist in different folders. All right, so your job then is to also add a folder. Now I've moved my professional folder over. I've got a link to the professional folder. Now I'm also going to make a link. So I'm right clicking on those two circles or dots, and I'm going to create another directory, and I'll call this one travel because that's where I'm going to upload all of my travel information, my travel blog. I don't currently have an example, but you'll click and drag and move all of those over to your travel. So now you have a folder for professional. You'll have a folder that has your travel blog in it, all of the assets, all of the images, all of the files, all of the CSS that pertain just to that project go into this folder. So at that point, I'm going to then want to come back here. I'm going to put this inside a div. And the reason I'm putting the image inside of a div is so hopefully it'll show up down below so it doesn't look so squishy there. And so now I'm going to make a second anchor tag, and that anchor tag needs to go to not the professional but to the folder that I created, and I called it travel. So this needs to be the name of the folder that you created here. So I've created a travel folder, and so this also is the travel folder. Again, if I have an index.html, I really don't need that because that is the default, so either way would be correct. Obviously, I'm going to change this to my travel blog. Alrighty, and so now when I upload this, I'm overwriting one that already exists, right? So this is the one I just edited. That's this one right here. It's on my desktop. It's in my homework folder. I just edited it here. So now when I copy this over, the FileZilla is going to notice I already have one here. Make sure you drag it into the proper place, right? This is the index for the root. There's a different index for the professional, so I don't want to overwrite that one. So I'm going to double click on this double dots to come back up, or you could click on this one to get back to the root. So I want to make sure this is the one I'm overwriting. So I'm going to click and drag it over here. I should get an error message. So it's saying your source file is going to overwrite the target in the root. That's the root, see? So here's where I don't want to get into trouble. What if I do this? Now I'm going to overwrite the index file in the professional, and it's going to ask me, did you mean to overwrite the index in the professional folder? like, oh no, I did not mean to do that. So be very careful. I'm going to go back up a directory, click and drag this into the root index.html. This time I am overwriting appropriately, so I can click on OK. Now that I've uploaded that to the live server, I should be able to refresh my page, and I should now see my professional website and my travel blog. I don't currently have anything in the travel blog, so I have a 404. Remember Mitchell, and then there's the travel folder. These are all just folders. So I'm going to erase that and go back to Mitchell's. There we go. So this is what I'm wanting you to do, is to create your landing page for all of your projects. Your landing page means your index.html that's in your root folder. And hopefully you'll make it look a lot nicer than mine, because you guys have the skills. So I want this to look nice. And then you're going to provide links to your 2 uploaded projects. One is your professional project, which is in some type of, I'm calling Mitch's professional. And then you also have the travel one, which you're storing in another folder. So hopefully this all makes sense. I know it's going to be a little bit challenging. This can be a little bit frustrating, but the more you frustrate, the more you learn. So keep frustrating. Hope this was helpful.